Welcome back to Women's Wellness Authority. I'm your host, Diana Ruskowski. And what if one of the most overlooked wellness tools wasn't another supplement, a workout, or a wellness trend, but simply stepping outside and growing something with your own hands? In today's fast paced world, so many of us feel overstimulated, disconnected, and are constantly rushing from one thing to the next. But what if slowing down, reconnecting with nature, and growing something with your own hands could actually support our mental health, our nervous system, and help us feel more grounded? Today, I'm joined by Sara Rubens, a gardening coach who helps make growing food feel approachable, realistic, and sustainable. She helps others realize that gardening does not have to feel intimidating, expensive, or overwhelming. So, Sara, I'm so excited to have you here today because I think this conversation is going to inspire so many women to look at wellness in a completely different way.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for the introduction. And I'm honored to be able to share my passion with you and with your audience. It's going to be a fun conversation.
Yeah. So let's maybe start there. Where did your passion start? How did it grow?
Oh, no pun intended. How did it grow, right?
No.
Um, Actually, it's kind of a funny story. Prior to COVID, I mean, we all have this COVID scenario that we talk about still. But prior to COVID, I literally described myself as the most boring person I knew. Don't get me wrong, I was incredibly busy. I was, raising my children. I was supporting my husband's career. I was caring for my elderly mother. I was involved in my community. I was, busy, busy, and I was working full time. Busy, busy, busy. So I
Yeah.
really didn't have
Oh,
any
just
time.
that thing on the side, that day-to-day job.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that 8 to 5 thing. I didn't really have any
Yeah.
time to have any other extracurricular activities, although I always wanted to. I just literally did not have the time on my calendar. And so when COVID happened, I was already working remotely from home, so that was not unusual for me. But what was unusual is everything else that was on my calendar that filled the rest of my day and afternoons and my evenings, running the kids around, going to see my mother, blah, 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 that removed from the calendar. And all of a sudden, I'm like, Lord, I don't know what to do. I've got no hobbies. I have no interest. What am I going to do? I'm not going to work more than 8 hours a day. That's for sure. So I decided that I was going to pick up a hobby. And I thought, well, what the heck? Why don't I try gardening?
Like a lot of people did. A lot of people, I think, had that same realization, like, wow, what am I gonna do now?
What am I
Yeah.
going to do? Exactly. And so I took an online gardening class. And I know this sounds like a ridiculous pun, and I could go all day long on puns about gardening, but really, I went down the proverbial rabbit hole. I just realized the unbelievable glory and transformational power of a tiny seed. If you put that seed in the soil, you give it some water, you give it some sun, by God, it is going to grow something. And in my case, it grew something that you could eat. And I just went bonkers. I was so excited about it. So that's where it all began. And then it took a couple very interesting pivots, which I'm sure we'll have a chance to share about. But that's it. And what's important, I guess, at this point is we're sitting here in 2026. So that was just a little over like 6 years ago, 5 years ago. I can't even remember, exactly. Guys, I did not know how to garden before then. I'd never grown anything. And I learned how to garden because Mother Nature really sets it up for us to be successful. You just need to figure out how to leverage her knowledge. And that's what I help people do.
When you were talking about it, you said you break it down in a way that isn't so difficult, right? And I think a lot of people don't start because it is overwhelming.
You're right. I think that, well, there's a whole host of reasons why a lot of people don't start. I mean, if I ask somebody, hey, do you think you have a green thumb? I get version of the following. Oh, my heavens, no, I can't grow anything. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough space. I don't have enough knowledge. It's time for us to start to rethink that mantra that people have because it doesn't require an extraordinary amount of any of those things. It just requires a process and a little system. And that's what I do.
Yeah. I will say I was that person. Like, I do not have a green thumb. I can't keep plants alive. And it was just because I wasn't like prioritizing or thinking about it.
Mhm.
And I had a big garden when I lived in Connecticut, and now I'm in South Carolina. And so it's definitely a different temperature,
Yeah.
soil, and all the things. So we've been experimenting over the last couple years. But I will say, even in the last like 2 weeks, because we have fruit trees and blueberries and blackberries, it's been amazing just to watch my kids like every day, just naturally going outside now,
I know.
picking berries off enough to eat their breakfast,
I
which is
mean, that right there, that is a home run right there, right there. And that would be a beautiful example, Diana, of what I call live at a garden centered life. Not only do your kids go out and do that, but guess what? You stop and notice that they're doing that. So it's
Yeah.
becoming part of the cadence or the rhythm of your guys' lives. That's the number one criteria to become a successful gardener, in my opinion.
And I definitely did some research because we've been trying for years to get stuff to grow. And I think we'll get down to like the basics, but I think some of the basics are missing, which is in the area that was designed as a garden area, like it's gated and
Yeah.
it's I don't think the right space. Whereas all the fruit trees are on the other side of the yard where there's direct sun all the time and that's like flourishing. So, anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm just curious, how did you transition? And you said a couple things happened from just doing your own gardening and growing your own vegetables to okay, this is actually something I'm more passionate about and like I want to make a business out of it.
That's a great question, and it still kinda makes me laugh when I think about it. So, I had been working in corporate America for 47 years. I was in corporate America in nonprofit space, working full-time. I started this little garden hobby during COVID, but I was still working full-time. And what do we do when we're excited about something? We post it on, in my case, Instagram. And
Mhm.
so, I used to be the type of person that would post pictures or reels or whatever about my pets and my kids and on family vacation. And all of a sudden now I'm posting pictures about the most beautiful tomato I've ever grown or how to grow a loofah sponge and how beautiful my garden was looking. And so complete strangers started reaching out to me and saying, "Oh my gosh, Sarah, I didn't know you knew how to garden. Will you help me?" And I'm like, "Well, I help you. I just learned how to garden like 10 minutes ago." So I
Yeah.
just thought it was really funny. And, I was kind of just talking about with my husband, like, this is kind of crazy. I've got people that would literally pay me to help them get established in learning how to garden. Maybe when I retire, I can make this a part time business. And he's like, "Make what a part time business?" I said, "I don't know, maybe be a garden coach." I mean, I literally made up the job title. I just kind of put a pin in that and was just doing it part time after hours or, whatever. And lo and behold, fate struck in a very unpredictable way. At the age of 63, after working for 47 years in corporate America, I was on the beach in Mexico City. It was Christmas week. I'm with my family on vacation. I received a phone call on December 27th and got fired over the phone. Yeah.
Mm.
Talk about getting a phone call that changed the trajectory of your life. It totally
Mhm.
does. I was completely shocked, flabbergasted. Turns out they basically eliminated my department and they just kicked me to the curb. And I wasn't really ready to stop working. And so I thought to myself, I can't imagine going out and looking for another job at the age of 63, gray hair, interviewing on Zoom. It's like, I'd rather have 25 root canals before I'd have to do that. And so I said to my husband, "Remember that idea that I had about being a garden coach? I got a lot of ways that I feel like I could scale that. I'd like to just take 6 months of my severance, off ramp basically, and let me see if I focus 100% on this. Can I scale this to a viable business?" And God love him. He was very supportive. And he's like, "Yes, go for it. See what could happen." And I don't know if you guys have all noticed, but gardening has kind of had a moment, certainly since
Mhm.
COVID
Yes.
and particularly organic gardening. And my business took off like a hockey stick. And there was just literally no turning back. So, really, it was like what I thought was a pivot was going to be my backup plan, really became my master plan. The universe literally planted a seed in me and said, "Go grow." And that I haven't turned back. And it's been fantastic.
I love that. And our stories are similar in that way. Even though we're different ages, I lost my job and had been ruminating about doing something on the side for years and was like, okay, I'm finally ready after moving and everybody's settled that I'm going to start working and building. And sure enough, the universe took care of it and said, no, you're going to do it now. And I lost my job out of nowhere, didn't see it coming. And been the biggest blessing. I'll ask you, like, are you happier now than you were working in that corporate?
Yes. I mean, literally, I wake up every morning. I'm an early riser. But I open my eyes, and what do I think right off the bat is, what do I get to do today? So
Mhm.
I coach 30 different clients in their yard. I go visit them once a month. I think in my mind, who do I get to go see today? Who do I get to go? What can I see in their garden? Or what do I get to do in my own garden today? Or what podcast do I get to share my story on? Or what stage am I going to get a chance to share about my book? It is just the most life giving opportunity that I feel so incredibly blessed for. And don't get me wrong, it's a lot of work. I work a lot in my mind, a lot. And I made a conscious decision to be a solopreneur. I don't really want to have any employees or anything. So I'm wearing lots of hats. but I love every one of them.
Even just talking to you, you can tell how much you light up talking about what you do. And isn't that the goal in life, is to do something that you feel so fulfilled? I'm not going to say everybody doesn't feel like that on the corporate side, but if you're in a job that you wake up and you're like, what do I get to do today? And that's how I feel too. I'm not like, oh, I get to sit through 7 or 8 meetings for the next 8 hours. It's my choice now.
I actually worked kind of in like account management, customer success area, which is code word for nobody comes to me unless there was a problem. So I was the
Mm,
problem solver, which I was
yeah.
really good at. And sure, it gave me joy when I could fix somebody's problem, which was great, but it's just a different scenario because really, at the end of the day, Diana, I realized how our communities and our world and our universe can change if we could just get more people growing just a little bit of their own food. It doesn't have to be a homesteading situation. It could be a pot of chives on your windowsill to get started. But just let everybody start to realize the unbelievable benefits, mind, body, and spirit, from growing your own food. And
Yeah.
that is just like every day when I get up, it's like, how can I help somebody feel confident and successful about doing that? And if they've had a bump in the road, how can I help them solve it?
Yeah, it's all about experimenting too. After we talked, I started planting things in different parts of my yard just to see how they would do. And now I know. Now I know what does well and what does not. And all different materials too. So,
The good news is there's a ton of content available for free, some for paid. The bad news is there's a ton of content available. I mean, there is so much information out there that you can go down a rabbit hole very quickly and get confused and just throw up your hands. I mean, you ask 10 people an opinion on how to grow tomatoes and you're going to get 10 different answers. I just learned my process and my system, and I now have taught it to over 150 people. I know what works. I mean, the other day I had this guy trolling me on Instagram and was just berating me because he did not agree with something that I was sharing. And I'm like,
people.
you know what? It's fine. You don't have to agree with me. All I can tell you is that I know it works because I've watched it work 150 times. It's just like learning how to play tennis, swim, drive a car, play mahjong, whatever. Sometimes you just need a coach. And that's what I do. I just coach people.
There's a million coaches for a million different things in life. So why not get one to garden? So I love all this because I think a lot of women are listening. They might be intimidated. One thing that I thought was really interesting that you shared with me that I wanted to just make the connection for people is it's more than just gardening. It's like the bigger wellness connection. Well, can we talk about the connection between gardening and longevity? You were sharing some scientific facts that people who garden tend to live longer. So
Yeah, it's
can
amazing.
you share that with me?
The little, I call it mic drop moment that I say is it's not about growing, it's about living. And so what you're referring to is there's a brilliant man who's an author, a researcher, a scientist. His name is Dan Buettner, Buettner. And he is kind of the champion of what's called the blue zones. So places around the world, he has gone off and researched all these places around the world where an extraordinary high percentage of people above average live beyond 100 years old. They're centenarian. And so he has studied these cultures and is taken upon himself to help us all understand what are these people doing. They're not taking another supplement. They're not going for CrossFit. They're not jumping in cold baths. They're not doing all these things out there. You know what they're doing?
Mhm.
They're gardening. That is the number one thing that all the people who live in these zones have in common. And when you think about it, this is the benefits that you get from gardening. Number one, you get obviously nutrient dense, good food, particularly if you're practicing organic gardening. Okay. So you get that. That's a no brainer. You also get the mental capacity to try and figure out, to plan, to do your garden schematic, to figure out how many beans you're going to plant in this square foot. So you're taxing yourself mentally. Also, for you parents that are out there that are homeschoolers, gardening is an amazing opportunity to teach so many things to your homeschool students. I mean, that's a math project right there. How many beans? This is much space they take up. You plant in square foot. So that's number two. Number three, you have your hands in the soil. Now, there is a huge body of research out there. And the area that I delved into is a organization called Neuro Reserve. And I did a lot of research with them. And it was just fascinating what happens with the brain gut connection when you put your hands in good quality soil. It's amazing. I mean, you think about it. You're Playing in the dirt, get your head going, get your gut going. We all know, and I'm sure your community that follow you are very, very in tune with the brain gut connection.
Mhm.
They even say nowadays, if you have a little child at home that is high chair age or whatever, put some organic compost on their little high chair tray and let them just play with the dirt. It is so good for us to do. It's a good day when I come home with dirt under my fingernails, you know? So there's that. There's also the exercise involved in it. I mean, it's physical activity. I am climbing up on a trellis. I'm working on a ladder. I'm lifting bags of mulch. I am squatting. I am walking. I am doing everything. So I don't even have to worry about, did I get my yoga work in today? I just got it because I was in the garden. But I think that the number one thing that is so critically important, and I think that if we get more people embracing this in our world is going to become such a happier place. And it's a sense of community. These people garden with their community. So here in the town that I live outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, we have a beautiful community garden, which is all run by volunteers. And like 3 days a week, I drive by it and there's like 20 people out there, students, elderly people, young adults, families, volunteering in this garden together. They are doing life together. So all of those variables, when combined, is just a recipe for abundance, to make you feel well rooted, to make you feel grounded, to make you feel well tended. And I am, as you can imagine, passionate about it.
Yeah, it's funny. I've seen neighborhoods that have these big community gardens and everybody I think gets like a section and works together. My girlfriend was over the other day and I was showing her everything that I was growing. And I have an empty bed and I was like, this is going to be for herbs. And she's a big tea drinker and really trying to influence me too. And I was like, why don't we grow some of the herbs that you buy dried and just like see what happens? And we started talking. We got all excited about it. So I think her and I are going to do that together, which I think is pretty
That's
cool.
fantastic. See, once again, sense of community. And then there's the whole, abundance, which you get to share your harvest and all those type of things. So in my own journey, I can't even tell you how the garden has become so life-giving to me. I recommend for my clients, if the first thing in the morning, they can go outside and spend 5 minutes, start their day with 5-minute walk through the garden, it'll set the cadence of your day. And
Mhm.
basically, I mean, it's stupid a pun, but it'll make you feel grounded as you begin your day.
It does. I used to do that. I would just sometimes too, if I felt really overwhelmed, I'd just take a break from work, like during lunch, and I'd go outside and I would just like pull weeds
Yeah.
or just get my hands in the soil.
My favorite thing to do is just walk around and follow a bee, going from one flower to another, and just watch it. Just watch it. Or obviously a butterfly, magical. Before I had this as my job description, livelihood, the way I describe myself or whatever you have it, I never did that. I would never stop and think,
You'd never stop and smell the roses, right?
yeah, exactly. What's that bee doing in that flower? It never even occurred to me to think about it.
Yeah, and I wonder if it has something to do with getting older and just reflecting on things and realizing like I should slow down more. Because when I was younger, it would be like, I've got to move, I got to hustle, I got to like make the money and do the things like that. What's the point in that? I think that would have been my frame of mind.
We were living in Washington, D.C. at the time, and my husband and I both working big career jobs, babies, had our kids being raised by a nanny, blah, 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 blah. We were on the hamster wheel from hell, is what I called it. And somebody said to me, just in passing, Sarah, don't spend so much time making a living that you don't have a chance to live. That silly little phrase changed the trajectory of our lives. My husband was getting ready to go on a business trip. He usually left like on Sunday night, didn't come home till Friday. I just saw no end in sight of this lifestyle that we were living. And I just burst into tears and he's like, what's the matter? And I said, when are we going to stop this? What are we going to do to stop this? So we ended up making a huge change and we moved south. We moved to a little town where it changed the rhythm of our life. And I get it. Not everybody has the opportunity to do that. But what everybody does have an opportunity to do, to get back to your original question, Diana, is everybody has an opportunity to stop and look at a bee and
Mhm.
just watch it. Just watch it and teach your kids to do that. Teach your
Mhm.
kids to stop and look at a bee versus teaching your kids to be busy, 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 busy. We got to go here. We got to go there. We got to go here. Before we go here, there, and everywhere, that's all fine. But let's stop and look at a bee real quick first.
Mhm.
That's where you
Mhm.
start.
There's a couple beautiful flower farms in town. And I went with my daughter for a Girl Scout event and we just she loved picking the flowers and that it was like a celebration of her. And she made little bouquets for me and my daughter and her. And they all put them in their rooms. I put it in my office. And she was like, can we just do this more often? Then I walked away from that and was like, Okay, in addition to vegetables, now I need to do flowers.
But here's the deal. Okay, so it's not like a, oh, one more thing. My philosophy of planting up a garden, let's say it's a 4x8 raised garden bed. You
Mhm.
have herbs, you have vegetables, and you have flowers all growing together.
Mm,
Because honestly, that's the way Mother Nature set it up to be. Mother Nature doesn't just grow herbs over here and flowers over there.
yeah.
And that creates an ecosystem. That's one of the criteria for success, actually. But it
Okay.
also, you've got the pollinators that are coming in to visit those flowers, and then they go over and then they pollinate the squash, and then they are taking a little bit of nutrients from the herbs, and it all works together. So you can just throw some seeds in with your vegetables and you'll be in good shape. Flower seeds in with your vegetables.
We're just sticking to the wellness category for just a few more minutes. Do you think gardening supports stress reduction,
Oh,
nervous
yeah.
system regulation?
Yes.
And what is it about working in the soil, maybe being in the sun or moving that does that for people?
Handling soil, water, plants engages lots of senses and improves the brain's integrity. Basically, it enhances your sensory processing. So that's one thing. Now, granted, I'm not a scientist. I just have read a lot about this. And
Mhm.
I firmly believe that there's more benefits to it than there are downsides. As far as improving mood, we all know that if you get physical activity, that usually helps calm you down. If you're stressed out, my brother carries a lot of stress. And whenever he's stressed out, he wants to just go for a run or for a bike ride, get out in the sunlight. Physical activity really, really helps that. Sunlight is nurturing and it increases the serotonin in your brain. Neuroplasticity happens when you are engaging with new hobbies, learning new things. It promotes brain adaptability. I mean, there's just so
Explain
many
what is neuro?
neuroplasticity.
Yeah, what is that?
It means it's basically just getting your brain to adapt to new things, not to just to stay in this one lane all the time. It's like move over here, move over there. Think outside the box actually is what it is. The good news is that I think that the wellness category has really adopted gardening as one of the pillars of success for wellness beyond just taking quote unquote medications and eating healthy. It's really
Mhm.
adapting a lifestyle and adapting habits and hobbies that fill your day that are going to enhance your well-being.
One of my biggest missions for Women's Wellness Authority is really helping women reconnect with themselves and like listening to themselves, meaning what their body is signaling, how they might be feeling, and really trusting that voice again. Cause I feel like a lot of people have lost it because we've sort of been trained by society to shut it off to be able to function. So I feel like this is a great way to reconnect with themselves too, because you're going to recognize how your body feels when you do these activities and know and crave more of it. We'll kind of dig in now about where do I even start. But I think if you notice those changes and shifts in your body by doing this work, it doesn't become something that's just another thing on your list to manage, which is sort of how I used to view it. It just becomes something that's part of your life because of the way that it makes you feel. So I think a lot of people are probably wondering, okay, this sounds amazing.
Let's hope they think it sounds amazing.
If I can just put my hands in some soil and like feel a little bit more relaxed, sure, like that I
Yeah.
can easily do that. So what's the first thing they need to know about gardening? So if you don't have the time to garden but would love to grow vegetables or fruits or herbs at home, but they're overwhelmed, how do we make this practical for them?
I think that the first thing is for people to realize that they don't have to change their whole life to become a gardener, but the gardener will change their life. So, my number one point for success to be able to just start somewhere. And don't get me wrong, the gardening industry would love to sell everybody lots and lots of stuff, and you just don't need a lot of stuff. But I think that the number one criteria for success is that you garden in a container, a raised bed. Here in the South, where we live, the soil is terrible in the ground. It's clay and I don't care really where you live, gardening in the ground is a lot different than what I do, which is raised bed gardening. So with raised bed gardening, you're actually filling your vessel. It could be a 4x4 box or a 4x8 or pots or whatever with beautiful nutrient dense soil. We're tricking the system right then and there. We're gardening in a controlled environment. So there's lots of details about that. But this is the thing that I want everybody to stop and take notice and think about your own setting right now. And where could you place your garden that has approximately 6 to 8 hours sun a day, but as close as possible to the rhythm of your life, part of the cadence of your day? 20 years ago, I tried one time to garden And I thought that it was going to be ugly and it was going to be an eyesore and it would be something that I would not want to have anybody see because, after all, it's a garden. It's going to look all messy and everything. So I put it back kind of behind the garage with every intention of going to visit it every day. And the only thing that visited it every day was rabbits and deer. And it was a terrible, terrible failure. And sure enough, I threw my hands up and said, I can't do this. But
Yeah.
if you place the garden ideally between like your driveway and your back door, if you have a little strip on the side of your driveway, you could put a little border garden there. Somewhere that you interact with all day, 3 or 4 or 5 times a day, you're walking past it. So then you actually are stopping to take notice. You also are going to stop and look at that bee that I'm obsessed about that you're watching. But when it's part of the rhythm of your day, it's not one more thing you have to do. It becomes part of your routine. That is the number one key to success. Because what I like to have my gardeners do is spend 5 minutes, only 5 minutes a day in their garden. And then once a week, maybe an hour or whatever. But just micro encounters with your garden will make the success of it exponentially more successful than, oh, I'm going to get to that place behind the garage, but I keep on running out of time.
You said that, and I have my garden, like, is that sort of the end of our driveway in our backyard? And I now put a pink watering can, so that sticks out to me and reminds me,
Yeah.
go and water it. And so now in the mornings, I'll go and I'll check the soil because I've learned that I don't have as much sunlight as I thought. So I do not need to water every single day. And I'll test the soil and then I'll determine if I need to water it. Then from there, I go to the other locations in my yard where I have stuff growing.
For people who are busy, they're getting their kids off to school, they're getting themselves ready to go to work, they're going to the gym or whatever. This is kind of the rhythm that I like to describe. So let's say you got your kids breakfast, you're taking them off to the school bus or whatever. You walk back from dropping them off at the school bus and you walk through your garden and you grab a handful of herbs because you're now going to go inside and make yourself breakfast and make a scrambled egg and you're going to throw those herbs in the scrambled egg. Then you're doing whatever you're doing throughout the day. Maybe now you're packing yourself a lunch because you're going to work or you're doing laundry or whatever you're doing and it's lunchtime. And you think, oh my goodness, I'm hungry. I wonder if there's any lettuce or arugula or a tomato out there that I can add to my sandwich. So now you've gone out to your garden the second time today and you've encountered and you've watched what's going on. You've noticed if anything needs attention. And then the third time of the day, your kids are home. You're getting ready to make dinner. You say, can you go get some green beans out of the garden? Oh, Mom, I don't like green beans. Don't you remember I don't like green beans? Well, don't you remember we planted those green beans just like 6 weeks ago? I bet they're ready now. All of a sudden, they're outside. They're so excited. They're planting the beans that they grew themselves. And lo and behold, they're eating those beans. So that is a perfect scenario of how to incorporate the garden into the rhythm of your day. It's not one more thing you're doing. You're just doing it with the garden. Does that make sense?
It does. Yep. Yeah. I mean, you have to have the things growing that you use too. I used to grow things that I didn't eat. And so
Yeah. Yeah. Like zucchini. I don't grow zucchini. I don't like zucchini. It takes up too much space. I can buy a zucchini at the farmer's market if I need one zucchini. Grow what you love. Absolutely. What your family eats.
So would you say are like the key essential things that you need to begin?
So you need to have what I say it would be a raised bed. I like to have the raised bed be, and again, this could be a container garden or something like that. Try and have it be between 17 inches and 2 feet tall. If it's a traditional raised bed, like a garden box type thing, having it be 2 feet tall is fantastic because you literally don't even have to get on your hands and knees to work in the garden. It's like the height of a table, basically. So you don't have to have on your garden clothes. You don't have to think, oh, I'm going to go work in the garden. You just go to the garden. I mean, I've gardened in my white pants before. So having it be a structure that's high enough. The other thing that's great about that is that you've got now 17 inches or 2 feet of really, really good nutrient dense soil. So good organic soil. Please use organic soil. There's brands out there that they don't typically make organic products, but they've taken some of their products and slapped the name organic on it. I don't like to support those companies. I like to support people that live with all their product in the organic zone. Go to a smaller garden center. Typically, you can find good quality soil. Beautiful compost on the top. So those are a couple criteria that are really, really important for success. The next thing is a method for watering. So here in the South, as you know, Diana, it gets really hot. And it's very difficult to water consistently if you're watering by hand. And I have lots and lots of clients that have said, oh, but I love to water by hand. It's so relaxing. It makes me feel good to go out there and do it. So here's the analogy that I'm going to give. When I was raising my children, they thrived. They seemed much more calm when I fed them every 2 hours as, infants. I was feeding them every 2 hours. When they'd start to get agitated a little bit, within 2 hours, I could feed them and then they would calm right back down. And they got to the point where they just could expect it. It was just a routine for them. So they didn't need to focus their energy on when am I going to get food again. They could just focus their energy on their little brain developing or their sleeping or being happy or whatever they were doing. The garden is exactly the same thing. So this is what I recommend is that you try and place your garden someplace close to a spigot on your house. And you can get a soaker hose connected to that spigot and put it on a timer. And you set the timer, like right now in the South, we're watering twice a day, 6 o'clock in the morning and again like at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Set the timer so it waters 10 minutes each of those times. Set it and forget it. That consistency is the best thing you can have your summer garden thrive. If a garden's not getting water consistently, the plants are stressed out, and that's when disease sets in, and that's when they become very vulnerable to pests. Now, you might say, but Sarah, it rains, we're going to get inconsistency, but what we want is we want the baseline to be consistent. So those 3 criteria, close to the cadence of your day, excellent soil and raised beds, and some sort of system to water automatically.
And sun, by the way, because
Oh,
my
yeah. Yeah.
garden
Yeah.
is not
Well, yeah.
getting the sun.
Even if you don't have 6 or 8 hours of sun, that's really just the summer garden that we need to have. But if you have dabbled sun in the fall and in cooler seasons, plants actually do better in dabbled sun than they do, lettuce, spinach, kale, broccoli, cauliflower, all those things don't need 6 to 8 hours of sun. It's just the tomatoes, the peppers, the cucumbers, those need that type of sun.
Yeah, I might need your coaching because one of mine is diseased. I noticed that yesterday. I was gone for like a day. There's some sort of fungus growing on my basil, and it's because the soil is not drying out. This is the same problem we had last year, but those are my garden woes. But the things that I need to learn, right? So I either got to trim or cruise or move forward.
Everybody has failures. It's not the end of the world. The good news is Mother Nature gives us an opportunity to grow every year, every day, every year. You can just try again.
So we talked a little bit about like what should I actually grow? We said the things that you actually like to eat.
Yeah.
Is there any vegetables that are easier to grow than others to maybe if you're starting out?
Yes. If you're just starting out, I tell you the easiest thing to get. Get like a whiskey barrel or some sort of a large container. Fill it with the soil like this, like I described. And in the fall, when the temperatures are cooler, get a couple packets of loose leaf lettuce seeds and just literally throw those seeds on the top of the soil, rough it up a little bit, keep it watered, and you will be eating lettuce within like 2 weeks. And this type of lettuce, this loose leaf type, is called cut and come again. The more you cut it, the more it will grow. And you could be eating lettuce day after day after day after day until you hit first frost. Lettuce is the easiest thing to grow. Also, this time of year, green beans, super, super easy to grow. Once again, cut and come again. The more you cut them, the more they'll grow.
I've grown lettuce like once or twice, and when I cut it, it didn't really grow back. So I was not doing the kind I guess you suggested. I also had a critter, a gopher that
Yeah.
also liked to snack.
Yeah, that is a big challenge. Wildlife, it's a real thing.
I mean, we built barricades. We did so many things. We ended up getting a camera because we couldn't figure out how he was getting in.
Uh-huh.
And I had beautiful heads of broccoli and cauliflower that I was just about to harvest. The next day I came in, he had quite a party.
A little tip that I'll give you that is kind of a funny workaround is you can get a whole bunch of plastic or, wooden forks, break them off and just put them prongs up all around the garden, all in the garden, like right next to the plants. So they theoretically are stepping on it when they're trying to get to your plants, and that sometimes discourages.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it has worked for a couple of my clients.
I did peppermint soaked like old socks and towels to
Yep.
get some of the other critters. But what are maybe some of the biggest beginner mistakes that people should keep in mind when they start?
Great question. Not growing with the right season. So you need to understand what grow in your gardening zone. You could go to Google and type in your zip code and say, what is my growing zone? So here where I live and where you live, it's zone 8A. So then you could just once again go back to the internet or, get a book or whatever, and what grows in what time, in what season in zone 8A. So you've got basically cool season plants, warm season plants, and hot season plants. And so you just need to know, like in September, in my growing zone, what is that considered? In our case, it's considered cool. And so then you just look at the list of what plants grow well in the cool season. So you want to grow with the way that Mother Nature has it set up. If you try to do it otherwise, you are not going to be successful.
Very interesting. Really silly thought I had was like I could only grow in the summer.
No.
But
Yeah.
now I'm like, I think I should be growing in the fall. But my biggest challenge is, and maybe this is another question, do I go seeds or do I go to like a Home Depot that's pre-grown them?
Okay. Good question. So, first of all, depending again where you live, but here in North Carolina, we can grow year round. Okay, we can grow something year round. So, that's a wonderful gift that we have. Not everybody has that, but you could still grow herbs year round. Chives will grow. But anyway, there are certain plants that are easier to grow by seed. It's called direct sow. You just put those seeds directly in your beds. There's other plants that grow better by seedlings, the little baby plants, but
Mm-hmm.
I never, ever, ever buy them at a big box store because those have not been grown organically. They have been
Mm.
grown with products that, such as Miracle Grow and things like that. This is the analogy. I had a tomato one time that a client got at a big box store and she put it in her garden and it was just not doing well at all. But the tomatoes that she and I had planted that I brought from my organic grower were doing beautifully. I asked her, where did this tomato come from? And she said, oh, it was a variety I wanted. So I just got it at the big box store. And I started laughing and I said, that tomato was raised on crack cocaine. And now you're bringing it and putting it in your garden and it's going through drug withdrawal because you're not giving it that. So try and use independent garden centers that have more sustainable,
When you go to those smaller local mom and pop shops, what are you asking for?
whatever they have out is what is in season. They're only going to carry broccoli when you can plant broccoli. So
Okay.
again, I never understood any of this before I learned how to garden. And then all of a sudden it dawned on me, well, if I go even to a big box store, anywhere you go, they're only going to carry, they're not going to put Christmas trees in July. They
Mm-hmm.
put Christmas
Mm-hmm.
trees in when you're supposed to get your Christmas tree.
Yeah.
So just follow whatever lead that the garden center has, Ace Hardware or something like that. They're going to have the products that are appropriate for that time of year.
Don't kill me. I did go to the big box stores in the
That's
past,
okay.
always. But I was trying to be more cost conscious and also wanted to be able to control what I was growing from the start. So I did seeds this time, but I feel like I'm behind.
For a new gardener, I would do some research on what is easy for direct sow seeds that you just put directly in your flower beds or in your garden beds, like lettuce, like some chives, like cilantro. Those are really easy just to throw the seeds in, arugula, spinach, beautifully. I would not get into the whole seed starting inside, under grow lights, all that thing until you've mastered the direct sow part. So if you want to grow kale and broccoli and Brussels sprouts, those type of things, buy those plants from the garden center. People can follow. I'm not trying to put a plug on for my Instagram, but I post every single day all this type of content. It's like now is the
Mhm,
time for you to plant XYZ.
mhm.
So every
Okay.
single day I'm giving people advice about what to plant when. Again, there's a lot of content online. Find a
Mhm.
few trusted resources that are growing in your zone. Don't follow Joe Gardner, who's in Atlanta, if you live in Connecticut. Joe Gardner is a fabulous resource if you're gardening in the South, but he's not going to be very helpful if you're gardening in the Northeast. So find gardeners that are in the Northeast that can help you or out West or wherever you are.
If you're in zone 8A, then how can we follow you?
It's Seed, SEED, the number 2 sanctuary is my Instagram, but we'll post it also. Like I said, I post every single day, tips, tricks. Also, you can sign up for my email. I send a newsletter out every single day with something appropriate for what's happening in the garden in this particular week. I actually wrote a whole book that talks about 52 weeks of gardening. Week 26, you look at it and go, what's happening in the garden in week 26? What do I need to be paying attention to? That's really helpful. There's a ton of resources out there. Just make sure that you're focusing on those resources for your growing zone. So the first thing to do is find out what your growing zone is and then go looking for the resources. Quite honestly, I know AI is getting a lot of bad raps, but AI is a really easy way to get some content to at least get started. Don't sit back and say, I'm never going to be ready. Perfection is the enemy of progress. Just start.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Okay, so and obviously are raised beds the same as containers?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. Do what's best for you. You could start a few containers on the back right outside your door.
If you're doing a container like a whiskey barrel or like a galvanized thing, make sure that there's holes in the bottom of it so that,
Mhm.
water can drain.
So I think people are assume garden has to be all or nothing, but it's very clear it doesn't have to be.
No.
And if we start really easy, I think that empty bed now, I'm going to go and just get whatever you said, the seeds for like the lettuce, the spinach, the things that can grow quickly and easily.
But not until the fall. It's too hot for those now. So in that empty bed that you have right now, go buy some zinnias, some cosmos, like go to a garden center and get like butterfly mix of flower seeds. Get zinnias and just throw flower seeds in there. Flowers will take off. The bees, the pollinators will be happy. And then in the fall, plant your lettuce and stuff, like after September 15th.
Okay. Well, now if I know to go to local garden centers and they'll be kind of grown for me already, because I'm worried about like I'm already behind the ball because my tomato plants are growing now, but they were small.
It's really just the middle of June, I mean, everything is small right now. It's just they're just starting to take off.
Okay.
Anything that you can find in the garden center now, I would question how great it's going to be because those are pretty root bound now. They've been in those little plastic containers a long time. I mean,
Hmm.
literally, my local garden center was giving stuff away for free the other day. You could get it
Oh,
significantly discounted or something like that. Go ahead and try it. But I would not spend a ton of money right now because those plants are already really, really stressed out. I mean, you could try it, but don't feel bad if it doesn't work. Don't say, Sarah, I tried it and it didn't work. Well, for
yeah.
you, the plant probably wasn't set for success because it's been sitting on the shelf at the garden center for, 6 weeks already.
I like cut up peppers, dried out those seeds, and tried to grow from there. Like two growing. And this is maybe more advanced people because I've been gardening or trying to garden for years upon years. And then I left potatoes on my counter for too long and they started growing. And now they're in a laundry basket in my backyard.
Perfect.
I
Yeah.
don't know what they look like yet because we tried to grow them in the clay when we first moved here and they were about this big.
Oh, yeah.
And that's something you want to eat.
It's so fun just to do exactly what you said. You could take a green onion that you bought at the grocery store, stick it in a glass of water, get it to root, and plant it. You could do the same thing with romaine lettuce. Put the root of the romaine lettuce in a glass, let it develop roots, plant it. The whole key is just making sure that you know what time of year that particular
Yes.
vegetable likes to grow.
That is very key here. Okay. So I think people are assuming gardening has to be all or nothing. And I think it's very clear here. It doesn't need to be. You can start small, like, pick the things you love the best, and then just make sure you have the containers, the right sun, the right soil, and the right zone and time of year. I think that's really, really, really helpful.
Access to consistent watering.
Consistent order. Yeah. I remember when you told me that you kind of used an analogy and said if you don't do it relatively around the same time every day, instead of the plant thinking, okay, I'm going to focus all my energy on growing, it's going to mentally think like, where am I getting my mortar? When am I getting my water? And they're not going to grow and be stressed out.
Absolutely. You hit the nail right on the head. That's exactly right.
I'm a very visual person, so I almost imagine my plant as a person, and it makes
Completely.
so much sense to me now. So I thought that was a great piece of advice.
Yeah, the analogy I gave was, that when I fed my babies, I fed them every 2 hours. And if it got off schedule, they got irritated and agitated, and it took a long time for me to get them calmed down. They're all living beings.
Yeah, 'cause everything is energy. Plants obviously
Right. Uh-huh.
and they give us energy back once we consume them. But okay, so I want to go back a little bit to the phrase you said at the beginning of this episode, which is gardening should be part of the cadence of your life. Because I think that's such a beautiful way to think about it. Because so many women are constantly rushing, producing, and taking care of everyone else. And gardening is a way for them to kind of give permission to themselves to slow down. So can you just talk a little bit more what you mean by cadence of life?
The scenario I gave, I guess, is that if you position your garden someplace where you encounter it on a daily basis, might be in your front yard because you park your car in the front yard and walk across it, walk up the driveway or whatever. You don't want it to be another thing that you have to go do. Okay. It's
Mhm.
like, oh, I got to go flip my laundry. And oh, shoot, I forgot to do that before I went to bed. And now it's going to smell sour in the morning. You want it to be something that is just you interact with all the time. And if I could tell people if there's one thing that will make your garden set up for success is where you physically position it. And
Mm,
it has to be part of the rhythm of your day.
mhm.
And then not only is that good for you to go in and look at the garden and check on it and see like, oh my gosh, my tomato vines are like they fell off their trellis. I've got to do something about this. Or oh my heavens, my cucumbers right now look like they have some sort of a fungus. You don't have to drop what you're doing while you're rushing to get in the car and take your kids to the school bus, but you've now made a mental note that when I have a chance later this week, when I'm going to allocate more time in the garden, I need to address this issue. Or it could just be something that you address right away. Not only is that good for the gardener because you've tapped into all those beautiful cognitive benefits of gardening that we talked about earlier, it's good for the garden too. So the garden is asking you to help me
Mhm.
thrive, help me get rid of this fungus on this cucumber. It can't
Yeah.
do it itself. You
Yeah.
need to help them with that. So it's a two-way relationship. A two-way relationship is really hard to do if you're Zoom calling all the time. It's better
Yeah,
to
not
be in face to face, have the garden as close to the rhythm of your day, part of the cadence of your life. Maybe I should trademark that because I use it all the time. But
yeah.
that's what I'm talking about. I hope, does that make sense?
It does. And I think there's so many parallels to the work that I do about like women reconnecting with themselves. Because if you're like listening to the signals of the garden and what it's telling you, that's the same that you should do within your own life. And so have it be part of the family versus sort of being out far away where you're not gonna.
Yeah, I'll share a story with you with a client that I have that is very busy. She's a nurse. She also struggles with an autoimmune disease that she has her knees hurt a lot. And sometimes being out in the heat it really can be triggering to her autoimmune disease. So I showed up to her house. I visit with her once a month and check on the garden with her. And she meets me right away and is apologizing. I'm so sorry, Sarah. I'm so sorry. I didn't get to the garden as much as I should have. Maybe I came out here and then I just realized I only had about 5 minutes because it was just too hot and my knees hurt. I let her kind of vent with me and I said, okay, I just want you to stop right now. All the garden wants you to do is show up. Just be present. It's all I'm asking for you to do because while you were there, how did you feel before your knees started to hurt? She's like, oh, I just loved it. I loved being there and I felt guilty that I couldn't stand more. No, you just do what you can do. And that's all. I'm not asking you to do an hour every single day. The garden doesn't require that. But what's it require is for you just to show up. And she literally burst into tears. She said, thank you. I just needed to hear that. I said, the garden is a gift. It's not a chore. It's a gift. It's going to add to your life, not take it away. Even if you never get a stinking tomato out of it, the process is life giving.
So speaking of which, I'm just curious from your perspective, what has it taught you in slowing down? Especially when you started out, but even now that you're like a professional gardener, what does it do for you?
Oh my goodness. This sounds like such a ridiculous cliche, but it just makes me feel so well tended. I feel like it's my sanctuary. It's a place that I go to that gives back to me as much as I give to it. It's quiet. It feeds my soul, I guess is what I would say. And again, watching this silly little bee, it's just stopping and realizing there's literally a bee taking a nap on my zinnia right now. Is that not the cutest damn thing? I mean, did I ever stop and pay attention to that before? No, but I do
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And then I go about my day. And then, of course, we have beautiful cucumbers to eat for dinner tonight or whatever it happens to be.
What do you think it taught you about life?
Oh, I got a whole keynote talk about that. One of the things that the garden requires, it requires structures. It requires supports. So think of your summer tomatoes that are, vining tomatoes and they're growing all over the place and they're in what I call God-forsaken tomato cages that are never strong enough and they fall over and they don't really provide the support that you need. If you have good structures in your garden that are strong, that can withstand the storms, your plant and your garden will feel supported. Okay, same thing for your life. If you surround yourself with people, with a network of people, with a community that is going to hold you and lift you up when the inevitable storm happens, and they always do, illness, death, whatever happens. Those analogies are so parallel, it's just uncanny. You have to set your garden up for success at the beginning with strong structures and supports. You have to set your life up with strong structures and support. If you're going to a book group, if you're in a book club, and you realize that you kind of are dreading going to the book club because you don't really like the books that they choose, you don't ever have time to read the book, or you don't even really enjoy the people that are there, then don't go to that book club. Find something else to do. So here's my analogy. If you've got a tomato cage that's flimsy, but sure, it's supporting the tomatoes, but certainly when life gets hard, it's just going to fall over, then get a different structure for my tomatoes. Same thing. If that book club is not going to be with you when a storm happens, Go find another organization or a group of people that will.
Or a friend,
A friend, exactly. A
or
community.
an activity,
Yes,
or a
exactly.
community.
Don't just do it because everybody else is doing it, or you feel this obligation, or you've been doing it for years and you'd feel bad about leaving. Don't grow something that you don't like to eat. It's the same thing. So I guess that's my analogy about life.
I love that. And if a garden can talk, what do you think it would teach us?
Take care of our planet. We need to take care of our planet. The best way to do that is organic, sustainable gardening. It's good for the soil. It's good for the pollinators. It's good for everything, mind, body, and spirit. So if I could get just one more person every single day start to grow something, I will feel like I've been successful in this crazy endeavor that I took on when I was supposed to be retiring.
Yeah, but now, like, what would your life be without it, you
I
know?
can't imagine. I really can't imagine. When I'm 70 years old, am I still going to want to be my clients' gardens when it's 100 degrees outside? Yeah, probably. But also, there's a ton of other things that I could do sharing this wisdom with people. Is that, maybe pass the torch to somebody else who was ready to take this on. So, gardening is so approachable. It's so easy to do. You don't have to spend a lot of money. You don't have to spend a lot of time. You just put a seed in the dirt, and excuse my French, that shit will grow. It does. It
Yeah,
does. So go
it does.
plant some shit. That's what I tell people.
And if it doesn't, rip it out and plant some more shit, you know?
Exactly.
It is really a good life lesson. You have to try and try and try until you succeed.
Well, that's what I said to begin with is that perfection is the enemy of progress. So just start and enjoy the journey. And if you run into a stumbling block, look for a resource, find a garden coach, go to the garden center and ask them questions, start a
Follow
community.
people who are going with for
Yeah.
advice. Follow somebody in Washington State if you're in South Carolina. Well, I'll leave that sentiment as sort of our way to close
Thank
today.
you.
Thank you so much, Sara. Sara had such a way to make gardening feel less about gardening and really more about our overall health. Sometimes it looks like slowing down. Sometimes it's just stepping outside, touching the soil, growing something with your own hands, maybe watching that little bee sit and take a nap on the flower. And maybe through reconnecting with nature, you are reconnecting with yourself. In a world that constantly asks us to move faster, produce more, and stay busy, you can create your own sanctuary to slow down, feel grounded, and grow something literally and figuratively. So thank you so much for joining us today. And to everyone listening, if this conversation inspired you, share it with someone who needs a reminder that wellness can start with something so simple. Follow the show, leave a review, and as always, stay curious, stay empowered, but most of all, stay well. Thanks, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Women's Wellness Authority. If today's conversation inspired you, shifted your perspective, or sparked something within you, I'd be so grateful if you'd subscribe, leave a review, or share this episode with someone who might need it the most. Have a story of your own or something you'd like to share? I'd love to hear from you. You can connect with me on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook at Women's Wellness Authority. Please note the content shared on this podcast is for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult with a qualified healthcare provider regarding your health and wellness decisions. Until next time, stay curious, stay empowered, and most of all, stay well. Thanks, everyone.